What's up, everyone? Okay, in this episode, we're going to be discussing our jail time in detail on how we went through things, what we experienced, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So, check it out.
1978とある田舎町で生まれて移り住んだ新宿で育ちこの町で起きたこれまでの俺たちのここまでの生い立ちはほんのまた序の口試されたいちいち正してきた過ち騙し合いやからしないはスニッチの始まり放課後の参照児童館にホームアローンそんな時間はほったらかして向かったとある場所
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the YAMATODAMASHI podcast. We had our return episode back last week where Enson got into all the detail of what happened with his arrest. And we're going to carry on the story today because that was just part one. And the story gets even more deeper because Sarah is kindly joined us today to tell her part of the story. And then we're going to also look at comparing their jail experiences. So it's a big episode today. But before we get into that, I just wanted to get your reception on the feedback that we had on the last episode that we did.
Really good, yeah. Really good. I like the feedback. I like the how people liked how I guess genuine and honest that everything was. So yeah, yeah. So I if you guys don't know it, I look at every comment, and if I feel like it needs a answer or explanation, I write back to it. So it's all me doing all the commenting and the answering. So thanks for the comments, everyone.
Yeah, there's loads and loads of support on Instagram and on the video itself. So that was great to see. And then just out of curiosity, you posted something similar for your Japanese audience. How has the reception been there?
Pretty good. Yep, pretty good. A lot of people still saying their. Of course, you have those ones that never did like me, never will like me. So they're making all these comments, and a lot of them haven't even listened to the podcast. You can tell. They'll say, "Oh, you're making excuses." Like, I'm not making excuses. I'm pretty much owning up to it. So that's one of those things that you don't know if it's a 13-year-old kid writing, or maybe this guy's girlfriend thought I was good looking and he's jealous. So you can't really get upset at those comments.
Yeah, you never know, right? You never know.
Yeah.
So as we say, so today's episode, right? So in the last episode, Enson went into detail in terms of how he found out he was going to get arrested. And part of the way was that you actually saw on your phone while you were sat on the plane coming back from Hawaii was Sarah being arrested. So I kind of wanted to throw it over to Sarah just to hear what happened on that day.
It was a regular training day. So I woke up and I'd been messaging Enson because he was heading back from Hawaii. So we're obviously excited. I hadn't seen him for about a month because he'd been away, at the shop in Hawaii. So we were excited. I was messaging Koichi because I was actually going to pick him up from the station that morning. And I told him, okay, I'm leaving the house. I'm on my way, messaging Koichi. And as I was walking to my car, there's a group at the time was about 15 or so people just came kind of walking towards the house. There's a group of people. And at first I thought it was a joke. There's this thing in Japan they call it dokkiri, which is kind of like a prank. And Enson and them had been doing it kind of frequently with the YouTube channels here. So I thought it was something like that. I thought it was a prank. So it's kind of like, oh, like what's going on kind of thing. But then, of course, things got really serious when I went to grab my phone. They kind of approached me really quick and like grabbed my phone from me. And I was kind of like, well, what the F, like, what the hell's going on kind of thing. And then like pretty quickly they told me what was going on. And then presented me with search warrant for the house and for our cars and stuff. And as they were talking, more people arrived. And then I looked back in the yard and there's actually like plainclothes officers, detectives kind of like surrounding our house. So there ended up being about 30 odd people that had come to search our house.
This house.
This house, yeah, come to search this house. So I was kind of in shock a little bit when it first happened, I think. And to be honest, I haven't really relived detail by detail until this interview. I talked about little bits and pieces here and there. So, yeah, it's kind of remembering it is a little tough. But yeah, they pretty much came and then they presented me the search warrant and they asked me if I was expecting any packages for anything. I was kind of confused. I had no idea what the hell was going on. But they presented me the search warrant and I just told them, well, they said they wanted to search the house. I said, can you legally do that? They said, yes. They had translators there too because it's all in Japanese. And I said, well, you like, do what you're going to do. I'm going to sit here. So I sat on the stairs. I refused to move. And they said, no, we can't do it without you being there in person.
They need a witness.
Yeah, yeah. They like the person needed to witness this house search. So they proceeded to search our house. Like they pretty much went through everything in our house. And like, you know, trying to question me throughout as they were searching the house. So that's, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what happened there. And it was hard because that was the first time in my life I've ever felt so powerless because I literally couldn't do anything. I couldn't talk to I couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't contact anybody. So I found out that Koichi and Nachi were standing on the main road, like trying to, you know, get to me, but the police were blocking them too. So they were cutting me off from everybody and going through our house and asked me a ton of questions. And yeah, that's pretty much what happened there. And then after they were done with the search, we're out by the garage, and I mean that's the video that you guys saw. They put me in handcuffs and shackles and led me to the car and arrested me and took me in for questioning, and that's what started the, you know, I was interrogated at the police station where Enson was held at Kuki. And so I was, arrested, interrogated, like drug tested, processed at that police station, and then transported to Higashiyomiya, where they had like a women's facility. So I was held separate to where Enson was. And yeah, in Japan, they can hold you for 20 days
without charging legally.
You. Yeah. So that's what kind of started the ordeal.
What goes through your mind, right, when suddenly 30 police officers are there?
I think there was, after I got over the fact that it wasn't a prank, there was a bit of shock. I think it was kind of just like, whoa, like this the first time anything like this has ever happened to me. So I was kind of like shock, a bit of disbelief, and then just that feeling, that powerless feeling, especially, and then you realize, whoa, you do feel isolated, you feel alone, and you kind of, I didn't know there's nothing I could do. So that was my initial reaction with everything that was going on.
And did they actually put handcuffs on you then when they took you out?
Yes, yeah. So they put handcuffs and they tie rope, they shackle you and tie a rope around you. And they have an officer, like 2 on each side, one behind and one in front of you as you're walking. So you feel like it's weird. Like you feel like they think you're gonna Hulk out or something. Like I'm cooperating.
They tie you up and stuff, all your hands around your waist and everything.
Yeah, like I'm coming willingly. Like I'm kind of
It's procedure.
It is. It's procedure, but
even from the jail cell to talk to the investigator, it's right upstairs. But they shackle you and they tie the rope around you and everything. So they do all go through that procedure.
Yeah.
And then so when they actually take you away, right? You're in the van. Is there lots of people, or are you kind of separated from everybody?
No, so in the van to go to like the initial arrest, so it was like the vans like the Alfards or the regular vans that you see, and there were 2 people either side of me in the back seat, and there's an officer in front of us in the seat, and then 2 in front. So the van was pretty full. There were no like screens or anything like that. It was just like riding in the back of the car, except I'm handcuffed and tied with a rope.
And I was told that the reason why they had so much police is because they didn't know how I would react or my students would react when they came to the house.
I mean, do
I'm
you think
glad
that would
nobody was here, to be honest. I'm glad that like the guys and stuff. Because what's weird is that a couple of the guys were actually planning to stay the night before, so they would have been here in the morning.
Mhm.
And I don't know how the universe works in weird ways, but
I don't know
yeah,
if they would have been taken in also.
yeah, I'm
or
glad that they weren't implicated in any of
questioned,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
So
think they would have been taken in because the package that was sent was my name on one, the return address, and Sarah's name on the receiver address. So
Mhm.
they were involved in also. I think, but there would have been a complication in that because they would have been questioned, put on the side
Yeah.
because they're in the house. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that would have
And-
complicated things a little bit.
Yeah.
and knowing some of the characters, right? They might have been quite defensive as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think just them being Japanese, I wouldn't want that to happen to them because there's just a stigma around anything happening with the police, in Japan that goes to like does to a person's like persona or like personality, and they don't need that. They're trying to make their way, and because they're Japanese, that matters. Like we're a little bit different. We've got a little bit of that kind of foreigner pass a little bit. Enson not so much because he's famous, so he's more on the Japanese side. But I guess we're a little bit shielded in that respect, or maybe we just don't care as much. I don't know.
Maybe. So once they'd done the search, did they tell you what you were being arrested for?
Yes, yeah. They
And-
said it was like for violating the narcotics law, like suspicion of like importation for
And did-
violating.
And did you recognize that it was the mushroom chocolate? And if so, did that make you think like this is really? Did it surprise you how strict it was? The grandeur of 30 people coming just for chocolate bars.
Yeah, it did. It was kind of shocking at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
What was your biggest concern when the whole thing happened?
How do I get to it? Like, how do I talk to Enson? Like, how do I communicate to Enson? And of course, not knowing at the time that I wouldn't be able to talk to Enson, for a long time yet. And then the dogs, because again, like not knowing what was going to happen to Enson, but not being here with our dogs and the house and the koi, and that was really stressing me out because it was a hot day, and our dogs are really spoiled, so the air conditioning needs to be sorted. So all of that kind of stuff was going through my mind at the time.
Yeah, it's so hot here, and the dogs are so susceptible to heat. The American bullies, they if you leave them in the heat and the air conditioner on, they could die.
Yeah.
100%, they could die. So yeah, that was a big concern of mine too. That who's taking care of the dogs?
Yeah. As I was like getting like led into the police car, that was the one thing I said to the police officers was, can you please like give my keys to our student that was on the road? I said, please just have him, please tell him, ask him to take care of the dogs. Just please. So he said that he did. That was Shinohara. He said that he did at the time. But I don't know whether they're just saying that to like bring me comfort. So I was still stressing until I heard from our lawyer that night that they actually came in and was taking care of the dogs.
That's good. That's probably a big weight lifted, right? As soon as you know someone's looking after the boys. So let's get into kind of the conditions that you're in, right? So they take you in, they do all the processing. What happens next once you arrive at the police station? And that goes for both of you.
Once they took me from the house, they took me to Cookie Police Station, and they interrogated me there for a couple hours. They drug tested me, took like photos and fingerprints, kind of like
Yeah, the fingerprints are kind of gnarly. Yeah,
yeah, the
they do your
fingerprint,
hand, your palm, everything.
yeah,
Every finger on your hand.
yeah, that, and then I guess they can't hold women there, so they transported me to Higashiomiya. And once I got there, they processed me to go into the women's jail there, and that's where they take into a room. They take all your belongings and they itemize every single thing And
Every
and then
single
they have
card,
on you.
every single paper.
Yeah. So if it's like a receipt, they'll like write down, you've got a receipt in your wallet for this, like every single thing. Like you've got a point card for this particular place, every single thing that's on your
Every single
person.
credit card, every single business card, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So they do all that, and then obviously they strip search you, and then they take your clothes off you, and they issue you clothes from the prison. I'm sorry, they issue you clothes from the jail. And it was shitty at the time because I'm big for Japan. So I didn't fit the first lot of clothes they gave. Like I couldn't even get into them. So they had to go get some more. And even those clothes were kind of like barely fitting me. It was really uncomfortable. And so for women in the jails, you can't wear bras because I guess it's a security risk. Yeah,
You can tie your neck up or something.
can do that, or you can probably conceal stuff in there too. So yeah, you can't wear bras. So as for women, it was kind of felt a little bit violating as well. But I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, they put you in clothes and then they take you to your jail cell. And as they're walking you everywhere other than your jail cell, you're handcuffed and with the rope. So they transport you, and you've got the guards, like two on the side, one at the back and one in front, leading you.
And they
Place.
tie your rope around the one in the back.
Yeah.
So you're tied together with the person, the officer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as I walked into the jail, I have no reference for other than Enson's previous arrest for the what to expect.
What's
And
written in the
also,
book, yeah.
yeah, what's written in his book, and also like movies or documentaries that I've seen on TV.
Mhm.
And so I've got all these kind of racing thoughts going through my head. And like I wrote about this too when I was in there, but there's a movie called Shot Caller, and a guy goes into jail, into prison, and one of the rules was, he had to go and start a fight so that he could establish kind of dominance and make sure that he won't get picked on in jail. And as ridiculous as it might sound now, we can laugh about it. At the time, that was actually what was going through my head. I was like, holy shit, am I going to have to fight? So I had that kind of anxiety building up, and you're walking through a jail and you have to stand against the wall and they body check you. So as I'm got my hands on the wall, they've unhandcuffed me, got my hands on the wall, they're patting me down and stuff. And I look over and I see other inmates kind of standing at their cells looking at me. And then again, those racing thoughts start like, holy shit, I might have to fight. And of course I'm like, but if I fight, I might get in trouble. That might make things worse. Kind of all of these things. Like, again, it might sound ridiculous now, but at the time, that's what was going through my mind. So I've got all this, and I was just trying to tell myself to remain calm and breathe. And it reminded me a lot of fighting. Like, it really felt like the walk out to the ring, because you've got all of when you're walking out to a fight, you've got all these kind of like, this adrenaline,
Anxiety,
yeah, the anxiety, the adrenaline going through your body. And it was such a similar feeling. So I kind of tried to just channel that and just try to breathe just to calm myself down.
Do you think if you'd never had a professional fight, do you think you would have been able to deal with things as well as you did?
I think fighting and a lot of the training and things that we do here saved me mentally.
Save your stability.
Yeah, I think it was able to keep me calm and process things more calmly with a more level head.
Yeah.
And not freak out so much. So internally I was freaking out, but maybe externally it wouldn't look like it because I was able to kind of control, I know, and poker face a little bit, I suppose. Yeah.
I think I said it on the last podcast, right? That I was so shocked that when I spoke to Enson when the plane had just landed, how calm and collected he was, considering the news he'd had. He'd just seen you get arrested. He knew he was going to get arrested, and you were just kind of working out like what might happen, what might not happen. Not like your regular person. I think most other people would be in bits.
Yeah.
It's kind of good because I think like you said, the training really comes into play And like even something so simple like when you're jumping in the cold plunge. Anyone that's viewing this podcast has ever done a cold plunge. As soon as you get in, like for us, we're jumping in like 42 degrees or sometimes 40 degrees. Your body, your heart rate it goes fast. Your breathing shortens. You start hyperventilating. And when I was in the plane and I saw Sarah getting arrested, my Apple Watch actually went off, telling me that my heart rate went too high. And of course, I felt like there was like a shortness of breath. There's a little bit of a like a panic attack. And like how you calm yourself in the cold plunge, where you start taking deep breaths, you take slow deep breaths. You calm your body down. You tell your body you're not going to go in shock, and that kind of stuff really helps. And for me, I think that helps. I mean, at the initial moment when I find out things are happening, those kind of techniques help. But for me, I guess in my life I've been through so much craziness that I do realize at the moment when things happen that there's nothing I can do about it, but just go with the flow. I mean, I just gotta flow with the river and see where it takes me. And in that situation where I saw her get arrested, and there was that little anxiety come up, what's gonna happen, and then after of the brief moment of small like sort of panic, I'll go into that state of, you know what? There's nothing you can do, man. Just go with the flow. And that's what the state that I was in when I was talking to you, James.
Yeah. I kind of felt like that with the arrest and even going through things, even though internally I was feeling that. At the time too, you realize there's no sense like freaking out. There's no sense crying. Like that's not going to achieve anything in the situation. So like Enson said, you kind of just got to go with it and see.
Hope for the best, go with the flow, man. And realize that there's nothing you can do by worrying. There's nothing you can do by stressing. It's not going to do anything to change the situation except make you more unhealthy.
Mm.
I mean, it's easy to say now, but
Yeah.
as you're going through it, you know that, and you know that you shouldn't. You know that wait, whatever's going to happen, I can't do anything. No matter how much I worry, no matter how much I wonder what's going to happen, it's not going to change. What's going to happen is going to happen. But it's one of those things that you really. I believe it was good practice, man, to go through that. I mean, the whole arrest, there was a lot of ups and downs, man. You got good news, you're happy. You got bad news, you're like, oh shit. And then you got a little bit of good news, and then bad news again. It's like it's like a whole roller coaster of repetitively trying to calm yourself down, trying to tell yourself, you can't do nothing about it, don't worry about it. It was an emotional roller coaster. And I feel like I got a lot stronger because of that. Because there's so many times I went into like almost like a depression where I was so worried about what's going to happen, and all these things going through my head about us both getting kicked out of the country, the dogs being left alone, what are we going to do? All that kind of thing going through my head and stressing me out pretty much. But I found every single time, every roller coaster I had where I had that tension come up and that panic start, I was able to, within, I'd say like 10, 15 minutes, I was able to breathe regularly, relax myself, and, tell myself that there's nothing you can do about it. Just go with the flow.
Mm-hmm. And so on that emotional roller coaster, the moment when, you're processed, you're changed, you're there, door shuts, you're in that jail cell, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? So that's a question for both of you guys.
For me, it's pretty much, I was there before. So I was pretty much like, holy shit, this is all happening again. And then I start, then my mind just races and goes to like my mom, them. What are they going to think when they find out? What is Sarah doing now? What are the students doing? One of my other students was having a fight in the next week. What is he going to do? What is he thinking? When is everyone going to find out? Is everyone in Hawaii going to find out too? Is it going to hit the media and the worldwide MMA news? All these things. You got time to lay down and think and wonder and see what's going to happen to you. So you don't know really what's going on, because it just happened, and you're pretty much the only person in the world that knows what just happened. And my biggest thing was wondering, when is this all going to hit the fan? Who is going to find out at what timing? What are they going to think? What kind of news is going to put out? What kind of information is going to be let out? All of that was going through my head.
And what about you, sir?
all of that, and there's just a big kind of like, what the fuck? Like, that's the only way I can put it, is just, what the fuck just happened?
And
Kind
like
of thing.
and like any problem, you know, you start thinking like, oh, what could I have done to avoid this? Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. You know, you go through all that. I shouldn't have sent the chocolates. Oh, I should have done this. I shouldn't have put Sarah's name on it. I should, you know, there's all these things that go through your head.
I felt this little bit of apprehension as well, because I had a cellmate. So when I got in there was already somebody in the cell. So immediately there's that little, like, your guard goes up a little bit, because you're now locked in a cell with a stranger who's also allegedly committed a crime too, and you don't know what crime either. So there was that. Yeah. So I had that little bit. I kind of tried to look where she was sitting, find out like my space, and kind of just establish my little corner of the cell. So that was my first, getting
One
in
of
the
the first
cell.
things.
And I was lucky. I was lucky because I was famous. I got my own cell.
Yeah.
So the funny thing about Japan is when you have jail cells or you have jails, they're all in districts. So you go to the district you're arrested in. Sarah went to a different district because that's where the women's prison was, or the women's jail was. So whether the person, you know, caused a petty crime or murdered somebody, you're all in the same place.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I
So
got there was two of us, and then later after I came in, someone else came in. There ended up being three of us for the duration of my stay.
Whoa. So let's get into the conditions and kind of how they were different then. So Enson's obviously in a cell on his own. What's it like being in a cell with two other women? Like what are the rules around that?
It's weird. So one big point to note is there's no talking at all in the cell. So you're not allowed to communicate with people in your cell. You're not allowed to use names or you're not allowed to talk about your crimes or anything like that at all. So you're reduced to a number. I was 661. That was my number.
I was 60.
Yeah. And so you're just known as that, but you're not allowed to communicate with your cellmates or anyone other than the guards, you know, and you have to address the guards properly. It was, what's interesting about that is every morning the inmates have to clean the cells. So you got to sweep the tatami mats, you got to wipe it down, and you have to clean the toilet cubicle. So there's 3 jobs. And so every morning we'd rotate those jobs without talking. So it's kind of like you're almost communicating without talking under supervision of the guards. And it's, you kind of just, a lot of things are inferred. So, okay, I did this job yesterday, so I'll do this one tomorrow, kind of thing. So everyone just rotates. It kind of works kind of naturally like that. Sometimes it was really rough because I'd hear people like, you know, when people talk or make noises, the guards are telling them to, you know, to shut up and be quiet. And that includes some girls who are crying, you know, obviously you're upset. One of my cellmates was crying one time, and it was hard on a human level because you just want to like hug them or comfort them. And part of me wanted to say like, it's okay. But to be honest, I didn't know if she was going to be okay. I didn't know what she'd done. I don't know what she was there for. So the best thing, and I looked at my other cellmate, and we were kind of like a little bit like, what do we, there's nothing we can do. So the best thing we could do was just turn the other way to give her a little bit of privacy, to let her cry, and, you know, in silence in the cell. But yeah, it was, I think that was hard.
I actually had a guy in the prison that was pretty crazy.
Really?
He got arrested one night, and in the middle of the night, I thought someone was dying in the corner, in the other side of the jail. You could hear, "Ah!" Like we were like almost to a point where it sounded like he was possessed,
Whoa.
and he would scream through the night.
Mm.
And the guards would go tell him shut up, but he wouldn't listen, and he started pounding the fences, and it was crazy. It happened for like almost a week straight, all night, all day, until I don't know what happened. He eventually left, so I don't know whatever happened to that. But yeah, you know, when you go into the jails, it's pretty much the real interesting thing is you just get slammed right into a system.
Mm.
boom, you're on a system of everybody goes the same way. It happens every single day, on time, exactly what happens every single day. Wake up at 6:30. I don't know what time. My mind was wake up at 6:30, put away your futongs. Then you have to they give you your breakfast. You eat your breakfast, they take that away. You know, when you put away your futongs, you can grab 3 books. You go in there after you eat, after a certain time, I think it was 9:30, you get your pen. You get your pen, and then lunchtime they take away your pen. You get to eat lunch for an hour, and after that, 1 o'clock, you get the pen back. And for me, it was nice because when I was eating lunch, I was reading my books. So I would take a bite and start reading, and while I'm eating. But when I heard about Sarah's and she did, they wouldn't let her. They took her books there when they eat.
Yeah, they made me put my books down when we're eating, so I wasn't allowed to read my books during lunch.
And was your schedule different, Sarah, to Enson's?
No, it's essentially the same. There are only a few little different tweaks to it. Like we found out that, so for me, it was either you had your books or you had a pen and pen in your journal to write. You didn't have both. Whereas I found out that Enson was allowed to have a pen and his books at the same time. So they're really strict on that for ours. Yeah.
Books, we got it from the morning when we put our futongs away. Like for me, it was like 7 o'clock, all the way until 7:30 when we had to put our futongs out. The pens was from 9:30 to 12, and then 1 o'clock to 3:15 or 5:15.
5:15.
Yeah, they take away the pens again. So that's pretty much the system.
Yeah.
I mean, every day, same thing. You don't have, you take away your identity, they take away everything from you. You don't even have a normal schedule. You're on their schedule. They control everything. Shower once every 5 days. You wash clothes once a week. Well, they wash it for you, but if you wash your clothes once a week.
Yeah. When I went in, they didn't have the air conditioning turned on yet either, so it was kind of hot and I was sweating. And you can't change your clothes. You get changed in the morning routine. You get changed into a new pair of clothes, and then you're in those clothes until the next morning. So if you work out, so we're trying to work out as well in there. And when I say work out, you're on the space that's the size of a yoga mat. It's essentially a yoga mat. That's your area if you've got cellmates. And if I want to work out, then I've got to get creative and do, plyometrics or do calisthenics, whatever I can on that yoga mat. So, and if I'm sweating, then I've just got to try and fan yourself to try and dry out. But I'm a person that sweats, which is horrible. And you're not allowed deodorant too. So I'm sweating and I'm smelly, and you don't get to shower for 5 days. And I had the added challenge of being female. I got my period when I was in there too. That doesn't matter. You still can't shower. You still shower once every 5 days. So that was horrible too. And then, yeah, because just cramps and everything like that. And that doesn't stop because you go to jail. You still got to deal with all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So that sucked.
Yeah.
For me, it was nice because I had my own room. And because I was famous, I had not just my own room, my own section. I was in that one cell. Oh, it was smaller than hers because mine was supposed to be only a 2-man. So I think mine I estimated at 6 feet by 8 feet. The size of the room. And so when I worked out, I would have them turn up the aircon for me. And when I not working on laying down reading my book, it got cold, so I would tell them to turn off the aircon or turn it down. And it was, of course, since the room is so small, what I found was it was 4 steps across, 6 steps in length. So one lap would make 20 steps. So if I did 100 steps a day, 100 steps in a set, I would do 2,000 steps. I do 100 laps. It'll be 2,000 steps. So I started doing a system. I was lucky because I didn't have anybody else in my cell, so I pretty much could run my own thing in there. So I would do the walk. After the walk, I would do 50, or before the walk, 50 push-ups, do the walk, 50 sit-ups. 50 push-ups at the end. Then I do 100 sit-ups. Then I ended up doing 200 sit-ups every set. and then I'll do twists, 100 side bends, 100 squats. And then I'd later on read my book, and that would do one set. So I tried to do as much as I could. At one point, I was doing like 18,000 steps.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so I was going around I was doing 9 sets of 100 circles around the room. Yeah, so I was getting a good workout.
Yeah, that's impressive. You
But
kind of touched on
start
it.
with someone in the room, you know.
We had 2 other people in the room. You
You
can't
can't
walk
really
around
do
the
that.
room.
I mean, I remember a long time, 16 years ago when I was arrested, I had 4 people in my room. And it was about the size of the room I was in. This was ridiculous. But I would make all of them sit in the center so I could still do my laps. So I guess for me, I could do that, you know. But for Sarah, it was a little different. And she had 2 other people, and it would be hard. You had to tell them to sit in the center of the room.
Yeah, yeah.
Talk about how you were treated by the guards. Was it different for the 2 of you?
I was treated really well. I mean, I think a lot of them were fans, so they're really nice. There was one guy that kind of tried to, you know, play that tough role and try to be like this tough guy. But I always, before, I would look at him and say, "What a dick," and just be a dick back to him. But I was looking at it like a challenge, like, okay, can I turn this guy to like me or to be a nice guy? Which was really hard. But he actually started talking more. He actually wasn't that much of a dick after. But and all in all, for me, the guards are super cool. You know, they change. You know, they want to make you feel like you're not a human being. Yeah, that's why they take away your all type of schedule that in your personal schedule. They make you run like a machine, like a robot. You got the same schedule every day, eating the same food as everyone else, and then they take away your name. And I'm 60, number 60, number 60. I don't have no name anymore. So, you know, with that said, you know, a lot of times you don't feel like a human being. But I was lucky because my guards treated me nice. They laughed with me. They talked to me. They pretty much was pretty cool to me. I was lucky. I had really nice guys, and I even told Sarah when she came to visit me that I got friends in here, man. These guys are like friends. So I don't know how her guards were.
I think on a human level, our guards were actually really nice. They're really professional. They're really nice. They were just very strict. So
By
there
the
was
rules,
no
yeah.
by the rules. And I mean, when you're washing your hands, you can't wash past your wrists. So, and we're washing your face. So you're allowed to wash your face in the morning, at night when you're doing the routine to brush your teeth. And you're not allowed to, like, any water and stuff to go past your jawline and your ear. And they'll pull you up on it. When I'm writing in my journal, I sometimes for a bullet point, I'd use a little star mark. Like they'd circle little things in red pen saying I can't write those symbols because that could be, you know, some kind of communicating something, trying to communicate something to someone. So they were very, very strict with everything. But on a human level, I felt like they still treated us like humans. There was just no budging at all.
Yeah, I can't get over that. The water like coming down past your wrist. That was a
Yeah.
no. Why would that be so bad? There's just
Rules are rules. That's what the procedure is. And you know, like I can understand if I was, you know, trying to wash up here because I can see that, you know, you can't shower every 5 days until you can only shower every 5 days. I can understand people wanting to do that, but you know, if you just kind of make little mistake and stuff, they'll kind of tell you off. Like, no, not there. So yeah, it was
That's so funny
pretty
because
strict.
the one guy that was a dick, he was the one of the few guys that was strict on the rules. The other guys are real lenient. So for me, I could wash my hands. I actually wipe my body, wipe my arms,
Huh.
wipe my face, wipe my head.
Yeah.
But the dick guard, he scolded me when I got it. My hair was actually getting so long that I was getting like, you know, when you sleep on it, it gets the lopsided head because the hair's unbalanced. So I was getting visitations from Sarah, so I didn't want to go in there with my hair all fucked up. Bro. So what I would do is I would go and put my head under the faucet to wet my whole head to wash it down and then wipe it up with a towel. That's where he told me no, I cannot do that. But as far as wiping my head and wiping my arms with a towel, I'm pretty sure that the jails have one rule for everyone. It's
Yeah.
all the same rules, but the guys are just way more lenient. You know, even like when you get 3 books, and then you have like say they call it exercise time when no one exercises. You pretty much just shave or I don't know what you
We
guys
brush
did,
our hair, like girls brush their hair.
brush their hair or that's all we did. But you know if you get the 3 books you pick for the day, and you start reading it for half the day and like, oh, this one's shitty, or this one I'm done. I'm not going to read this one. You want to change and get another book, but they wouldn't allow that. You only could change books if someone sent one in to you and you wanted to keep that one. You would give another one up. But there's a couple times where I was done with a book and I wanted to change, and these guys actually let me. They told me, you know, you're not supposed to change, but okay, this time. So those guys are cool, man. I had really good, but they bent the rules for me, and I don't know if it's because they knew who I was, or I think it's a part of it is because I treated them like human beings. I didn't treat them like guards or someone that's my enemy. I treated them really nice. So I think they understood that, you know, oh yeah, Inson's human. Inson wants this. He, oh, I understand you need that book. I know it's a rule, but they would say, I think a couple of times they said only this time, but the next time was the same thing, only this time. You know, they're super cool. So I had cool guards. Just that one guy that was going by the books, being I almost felt like not necessarily because he was going by the books. It's just the way he did it, almost like he thrived on that authority to tell me, no, you can't do that. Stop doing that. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That was the guy. That was the guy that when we had visitation, he didn't let us go a minute past the time.
Really? Wow.
15 minutes, boom, he would say that's enough.
Yeah.
And he would sit there like he's a big honcho, and like real like his fart don't stink, you know.
Even the books. So we're allowed like books, English books, which was great because when Enson was arrested 16 years ago, he wasn't allowed only
No
other
English
than the
books.
Bible.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't allowed English books. So now you can have English books, but the criteria is it has to be a book that's popular in Japan. So we had some of our friends put in, like, we were blessed in that we had a lot of our friends and family put in books for us to read.
This guy Chad from the military went
Yeah.
to the libraries and sent books to us. That was a
Yeah.
game changer.
Yeah. But some of the books that were sent in for me, because they were international bestsellers, and I was kind of got into a discussion with the guards because they wouldn't allow them through because they weren't popular enough in Japan. And I was trying to like show them and translate for them, saying like, look, it's like, this is an international bestseller, so it's popular overseas. And they said, oh, but we don't know it in Japan, so I can't, you know, so we can't allow it, which is crazy because, yeah, Enson's place was so relaxed that I made a book just on one of those websites, you know, as a way, because communication with him could only be in Japanese unless it was a published book. So my loophole around that is I wrote a book, you know, about our relationship as a couple kind of thing in English, had it published on one of those websites, and I was able to submit that to him as a book. So that was my little loophole.
That book made me cry too. When I read it, it made me cry. Yeah. But you know, I had so much free time in there, and this is like an example of the books that I almost finished writing in. So you look at like for example, this one was I wrote 7 letters to Sarah every day. Like, so if you notice, it's like all letters to her. Every page is filled. Wow. So every day I would like almost like felt like I was talking to her. I also kept like a diary in there. Like, you know, I wrote. You see that? Yeah, I mean, it's like just full on. Yeah. I actually made a list of all the novels that I've read. See all the books I read.
And just to point out, you weren't a big reader before, right?
No, I wasn't a reader at all. And it was funny because I mean, I had this is my workout book, so I would have all my workouts listed. Like how many times I did sit-ups, push-ups. I had so much time. This is the drawing of the room, the 6x8 room. That's the from the top looking down. This is me sitting on the back wall looking at the front where the door is. That's the cage we're in. And this is me sitting against those cages now, facing the back. That's where the bathroom was, and there was another window there. Wow. So yeah, I mean, there was so much time. You know, you could draw, write, you know, all kinds of stuff. And this is illegal for me to have. So I had to like hide it and bring it out, because if they found this, they would have confiscated this. And it was funny because when Sarah left, you know, I mean, I got all these. These are the notes that I wanted to talk to Sarah about on the visitations, or to my lawyer. You know, I have a book here that is about my study with Maudi when I was studying, all my study, my vocabulary, my diaries, everything. Yeah. So when I went out, of course, as you can see, they let me take all these books out because it's all mine. I bought it and I wrote in it, but Sarah had a different experience.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me take so I filled like 1.5 notebooks in my time there.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm actually looking at writing a book about my experience, just kind of describing things in detail. And when I was going to leave, they said that because it's in English that I couldn't have it. At first, they said that I'd have to pay for a translator to translate it, and then I'd have to like scan it and analyze it to make sure that there's no sensitive information in there. And the translator had to be an accredited translator. It can't be one of my friends. So they're really trying to make it hard. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to talk to my lawyer. And so please hold on to the books because I still want them. And then as I was leaving, another guard came up to me and they changed his story and said, well, no, you can't have the books at all. And I said, well, I still want them. So please hold them. I'll have my lawyer contact you.
Crazy, man.
Yeah. And our lawyer's awesome. He got the books. So
Oh, he did.
he got the books. Yeah. He ended up getting the books back. So I've got those here to kind of transcribe and go through. And as I was writing, I kind of had an idea not to put any sensitive information in there. So I made sure not to talk about Enson. I made sure not to mention anything about like any particulars that I'd seen in the jail. So I kept all the sensitive information out of there.
And I didn't.
Yeah.
You did.
I didn't
You drew
like.
pictures
For
of
all
the
you guys
cell.
waiting for book 3, book 3 is going to come a lot faster because this book is all stories on book 3 stories, and it's all like all the stories I wrote up on, you know, about the stories of that's going to be in book 3. So that's going to be coming soon too. So
Awesome. Look forward to it. So we talked a lot about how bad the conditions were. What do you guys both think is the hardest thing about being in a Japanese jail cell?
the strictness and the strict schedule that they had, the control they put on you, the identity to take away from you, pretty much that, you know. And there's nothing, there's no chairs and no tables, 3 books for the whole day. You know, it's almost like they don't want you to be comfortable. Like I actually got into this thing where I put on double sweats and double sweaters. And what I'll do is when I get into jail, after I change and get into jail in my room again, I would take it off and roll it up and make a pillow, because there was no pillow to lie on, unless you use the books as a pillow. And they wouldn't let you do that. They would scold you if I did that. You know, it's every little thing that would make you comfortable, they want to take away from you. Crazy. It's really crazy. So yeah, that for me, that was the hardest part. Is I felt that they were trying to break you, and they would do it, but every little thing. You cannot talk, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you know.
I feel like the jail system in Japan is made to break people because it's where people are held before they have trials or before they're convicted. So if you break people down like physically and mentally, then it's probably easier to get a confession. And that's a whole nother kind of philosophical discussion, because Japan has like a 99% conviction rate. Like once you're indicted, there's 99% chance you know, yeah.
You're pretty much going to get charged. I mean,
and I think that the jail system is designed to help with that. So yeah, I think it's done that. For me, it was more physically more challenging because we're sleeping on futon, so they're really thin.
yeah, that was hard, the
And
floor.
I've got a bad back, so I really struggled with that. And the heat, because there's no air conditioning. So I actually slept on purpose next to the cell door because it was metal. So it was nice. It was like a cooling mechanism for me. So I'd kind of put my hand or my arm on it just to help cool myself down. So yeah, physically for me, and of course, you know, being female at that time of the month was really challenging while I was in there. And then I also got a cold
You caught
like
a cold,
halfway through, while I was in there too. So that was horrible because You know, you just sometimes you just want to lay down and go to sleep, but you're laying on a hard floor. Like they don't, you know, they don't care. And at nighttime, I'm quite light sensitive too. So I like to cover my eyes or sleep in darkness, but they have a nightlight essentially.
They'll
So,
never let you sleep in dark because
yeah.
they always want to see what you're doing.
Yeah. And one of the first couple nights I was covering my head just with my arm
You know,
like
that's
this
good.
or
Yeah.
with a blanket, and I got scolded. So you're not allowed to do that either. Yeah. So that was really hard. So sleep deprivation was real in there too.
But
'Cause,
I
yeah.
think I can speak for the both of us. The real tortures when we had to go to the prosecutors.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would
Really?
take you out at 8 in the morning and they would handcuff you. You'd go in a car with other prisoners. I was lucky because of who I was. I got to sit in the front, or sometimes I was taken in a van by myself. But the routine that Sarah went through is you would be handcuffed and you get strung in with, they would string the rope through your cuffs and you'd be tied together.
You're like tethered to other
So
prisoners.
you're walking in a line of 6 or 7 prisoners. And then when you get in the bus, they'll tie you to the rails of the bus. So you're all tied together in the bus. And you go to the jail, you pretty much get there in an hour. So 9:30, you're in the jail on a hard wood seat where you can't lie down, put your feet up. You can't,
You have to sit like this.
you gotta sit like this with
Like this,
handcuffs on.
handcuffs.
And that goes on till, of course, you're there to see your prosecutor, the prosecutor. And if you get to see the prosecutor, depending on what asking you or they're trying to get out of you, you see them from 15 minutes to maybe 40, 50 minutes. Other than that, the only break you have is a 30-minute lunch.
But it's not a break. It's just that they take one handcuff off one arm and put it on the other hand so that you can eat with your chopsticks. And then you're done, you get put back in your cuffs.
So pretty much if you calculate that, if you got like a 30-minute, you say about an hour and a half pretty much that you're actually able to eat or stand up and walk and talk to the prosecutor. Other than that, you're sitting in that same position in the cell. I think you leave depending on the day and how slow everything goes. You can leave at 7 o'clock at night, or you can leave at 9:30 at night. Leave the prosecutor's place. So if you think about it, you think it's a 12-hour trip, and if you think about hour and a half, pretty much 10 and a half hours you're sitting in the same place, and it's really torturous because you're figuring out how to pass the time. You're thinking of I'm thinking of meditating. I try to close my eyes, try to concentrate on my breathing. I mean, it's crazy because one of the ways that I found was the easiest is to count. So I'd sit down and close my eyes and count 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'd count it. And throughout that whole day, that one day that I counted up to 57,000.
Whoa.
Try
Wow.
count. Try sit down and count to 1,000. How long
Yeah.
it freaking takes to count to 1,000?
Yeah.
I went to 57,000.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and I don't know how Sarah dealt with it. How did she dealt with passing the time? Do you had any technique she did to pass the time? That was mine counting.
One time I was thinking about what I was going to write. So I was trying to write what I was going to write already in my head. So that would pass the time.
You get no notes, no pens, so you can't jot
no
anything down
pen. So I'm kind of just writing in my
your
head mentally, just kind of like, making stories in your head mentally so that I can know what I write when I get the pen the next morning. Because when you get back from the prosecutor's office, you don't have pen time. You got to wait for the next morning. That's if you're not being interrogated. So that was the other
Yeah.
shitty thing that I didn't like about being in jail was the apprehension around being interrogated. So for the first, I was in there for 21 days, and for pretty much most of those days, I was interrogated morning and night. And you don't know when they're going to come. So they've got a window in the morning, in the afternoon, and it can go on for hours that they just have access to you. So if they want to interrogate you, you just get called up and you got to, get interrogated.
And it's real shitty because you don't know what they're going to interrogate you on.
Yeah.
They found something, they want to talk to you about it. So you're thinking, fuck, what is it now?
Yeah.
And sometimes when the interrogation goes real bad, it can ruin your whole day.
Yeah.
When they question you on stuff like, holy shit, they found something out and I couldn't explain it.
Yeah.
You go back to the cell and a real bad feeling, man. Yeah.
and in the morning. So sometimes, you know, it's like the movies, they play good cop, bad cop. And sometimes in the morning, an interrogation wouldn't go well for them. So they'd kind of make little threats like, well, maybe we'll come back this afternoon, kind of just putting that in your head to have you kind of sweating a little bit. So, yeah. But as far as the routines and the not having control, I actually found solace and comfort a little bit in that, because that gave me a little bit of security and certainty. So I knew when I was getting up, when I was going to sleep, I knew when we were going to be eating. I knew when I could read my books other than being interrogated and stuff. But that gave me a little bit of security to kind of, you know, keeping that routine. So I actually, I don't know, I enjoyed that in a weird way. I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but yeah, I kind of took comfort in that.
For me, I didn't like it. It was just too freaking monotonous, man. Same shit every day. Same shit every day, man. And it's like when they wake you up at 6:30 in the morning, I'm like pretty much like, holy shit, here we go again. And then when I started, they call you, put the phones on. That was nice because you could lay on the phones. And right there, it was like, okay, one day, another day over, man. And you know what's really crazy is I read a lot of books of the people in the Holocaust, or people that was imprisoned in America or Thailand and other countries. They all say the same thing, that the days go by really slow, but the weeks go by fast. Isn't that weird? The
That is
days felt like forever, but all of a sudden I'm sitting there like, holy shit, it's already Friday. Yeah, it's crazy, you know. And
I don't know if I was in there long enough to experience that phenomena, to be honest. I don't think my stint was long enough to feel
oh, you
that.
didn't feel that? Yeah,
I did just feel like every day was long.
for me. It was kind of like, holy shit, the week's over, you know. And I'm looking through my books now, because there was a book, you know, that I mean, if anyone's in a hard type of suffering, or something happened really drastic in their life, I recommend you read this book. Where was it?
Man's Search for Meaning.
It's called A Man's Search for Meaning. It's amazing, but it's about a person that was in the Nazi death camps in Germany,
The concentration
the
camp.
concentration camps, and I mean, the ordeals that they went through were made my stay in the jail in Japan like Disneyland, you know. But I've noted there were so many similarities. Like I said, the days go long, the weeks go flying by. The second thing that was real crazy was that the will to live was connected to looking forward to something, like me having Sarah outside waiting for me, something that you looking forward to having. And the guy that wrote the book said that the people who didn't have anything to look forward to, they ended up dying. It's incredible. But yeah, so that, I mean, anyone that's going through suffering or having hard times in their life, read that book, man. That book will give you all types of techniques. It'll wake you up, man. It'll pretty much open your eyes to things that if you never thought of, and because now you understand it, it'll help you go through the suffering. It'll help you through hard times.
Yeah. I listened to it on Audible while you were in jail.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And yeah, it's a crazy story, right? In terms of survival and what that guy saw in terms of just living with death, right? And living in those awful conditions. But I could definitely see how reading something like that would keep you going in the place that you are in that moment, right? Because actually it's someone in a worse situation and you're hearing how they're dealing with it. It kind of gives you a bit of motivation, right? You think, well, if that guy's done that, then I can do this situation.
Yeah.
Helps give you a little bit more perspective, yeah. Realization, I suppose, I had, and I think Enson had too, while we were in jail, which is a big realization of just more appreciation and gratitude, because we had so much support from the start. When we got there, we got lawyers, and it was surprising because we had, I'm sure Enson probably talked about it in his last video, I'm not sure, but I had like 4 lawyers sent to me. Enson had 5 lawyers sent to him, all paid for by, you know, some of his associates, that we didn't expect. And one of them, actually, he knew that I already had a lawyer, which was fine, but he paid another lawyer that was an English speaking lawyer just to visit me every week and talk, just so that I could talk English, to make sure that I was okay. So he pretty much paid a lawyer just to come check on me and make sure I was okay.
Make sure you understood everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I had any questions that I couldn't relate to, because I had to speak to my lawyer in Japanese, that, you know, if I had anything that I needed clarifying or anything like that, just seeing that kind of support and from unexpected places was so, just, it was an amazing, kind of invaluable experience, really.
It was real moving for me to see how much
moving.
people cared for us.
Moving, yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. That's something that even so when people put in, they call it sashire. So people are allowed to put in books or clothing for you.
Mm-hmm.
On the day we got there, I mentioned earlier that I couldn't fit the clothes. One of our one of our associates has been to prison before, so he knew exactly what was required or needed for someone in prison. He sent 2 full sets of clothes, like clothing, underwear, socks, like
For me too.
for Enson. So 2 sets each he sent to us, and they had been prepared. So they had to take the drawstring out, the holes had to be stitched up. All of that was done. And so on the day we got in at nighttime, we actually got 2 brand new sets of clothing so that we would be comfortable. And that was huge, especially, like I mentioned, being a female and kind of feeling quite vulnerable physically in the clothing that I couldn't fit properly. That gave me a lot of comfort, and that was really moving to see that someone had gone to that extent to, you know,
They
to
really
think of us
did
like
in their
that.
heart care about us and
Yeah.
worry about us.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that was amazing. And just learning about, and sorry, the sashire too, the people putting in books. So the guards will show you on the form like who put in what.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes some of the names that were coming up, the guards had to help me read because it's in kanji. And they'd be like showing me who's been putting in, like they'd be putting money on my account and, you know, putting books in, and people that I wouldn't even expect. It was kind of a pleasant surprise. It was amazing. I was so grateful. So
Blown
yeah,
away.
that
Yeah,
was amazing.
We might have to close this off soon because I think they're all like,
Getting ready.
how long more is this gonna go on, Daddy?
He's gonna lick the camera.
But yeah, okay. So yeah, well, last question.
Yeah, so final question to wrap things up, and we obviously will do another episode on this in the future. What kept you guys going in those hardship conditions?
You go first.
Well, for me, 2 things. One was you know, Sarah, knowing Sarah was out there waiting. Also, my parents. I had loyal students that stood by my side. Those people waiting outside kept me going. Another thing that kept me going was the belief that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. And it always could be worse. Those two things that I always think, it's not something that I thought only in prison. It's the way I live. That no matter what happens to me, I know it's happening for a reason. And I also know no matter how bad a situation looks, it could be better, of course, and it could be worse. And if you want to contemplate, you want to concentrate on focusing on it could be better, you're going to feel like you're in a shitty situation. But if you can understand that it also could be way worse, you appreciate what you're in. So that thought process, and you know, having people I'm looking forward to seeing again is what gave me the most power to go make it through with my sanity, pretty much. How about you?
Same. Yeah, that knowing that things could be better, could be worse. That overwhelming sense of gratitude, knowing how much support we have, knowing that things do happen for a reason. I know that sounds really cliche, but more than that, I think is our personalities too, is we find the meaning in situations, whether that's good or bad. So this is happening, for a purpose, for a reason, and we don't know what yet. I mean, things are already happening that we're kind of like, this is a blessing. We keep saying this is a blessing that's come out of this situation. There's been so many blessings come out of it. So I think that outlook really got me through.
Even at this point, when we're not really out of the woods yet, I feel that there's the good outweighs the bad already.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing the stories. I'm sure everybody is
Wait,
watching.
you guys just
Appreciate it.
see this. Sorry.
Normally, when you guys are doing the podcast, I'm off on the side, kind of making sure the bubbas are well behaved and stuff. But now we've got both of us here. They're kind of like, "What the hell's going on?"
And you
Yeah.
guys notice, you see my hands like said Bernie's licking my leg. I'm trying to stop him. Thomas is climbing up on me.
Well,
But
if
yeah,
the Bubbas let us, next week we'll do part 2, right? And we'll cover
Yeah.
more around, what was happening while Enson was in prison and Sarah was out, how you felt in those situations, how you kept each other going, what you guys have learned from this as a couple. So we'll get into another deep dive next week. But any parting words from you guys as we wrap this episode up?
It's just really nice. I've been having this wave of like gratitude and emotions today. It's just really nice to be home here and actually being able to do this with you, James, and
Yeah.
to be able to kind of carry on our life. This is really nice.
Yeah, there was a moment when we would talk, right? And Enson was in jail, and it felt like this is going to be a million years away. It felt, it's crazy when we actually look back on it now, and it's like, okay, and it was 5 months technically that everything kind of went on pause, right? But actually, could have been a lot longer. So I'm super grateful as well.
Although we still have we have the immigration problem ahead of me. I mean, like what we did today, me and Sarah went out today. We had food. We watched the movie, driving together. That I can recall so many times when I was in jail thinking, oh, when is that going to happen again? When are we ever going to do that? Are we going to be able to do that again? So there was so much that we're going through now that I'm looking at and saying, holy crap, I was looking forward to doing this so bad, So
Yeah.
Life is great.
Life is good.
Life is good. Right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Look out for the next part next week, and we'll speak to you guys again soon.
Thank you all for tuning in and listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If there's anything we missed or anything you want us to talk about specifically, so as we talked about, there's going to be another part. Let us know in the comments. Let us know if you have any questions, anything else you want to know about.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you guys soon.